What comes to your mind when I say poisonous swamps, rolling, barefoot maidens? Yes, you probably thought about some Fromsoftware games, and you're right. Today, we will talk about Fromsoftware formula, how Fromsoftware creates their games, and what's so special about them that so many people love their games, even though they're perceived as hard. And right off the bat, I think nobody is going to argue that the main feature of Fromsoftware games is gameplay. Yes, there's lore, and I guess you can say that there's plot in their games. But let's be real, it's for the nerds. For the people that are willing to explore the depths of the universes that Fromsoftware creates. And that's a very small number of people. The majority of the people that play Soulsborne games are playing for gameplay. There's an issue with the definition of Soulsborne genre. It's hard to describe because, for example, Sekiro and Elden Ring are very different games. Besides of that, both games are perceived as hard, though they both are considered as Soulsborne. It's like there's a connection, something invisible that is present in both games, but people can't grasp the thing. At least I've never heard anyone explaining this. So, the thing that connects all Fromsoftware games in one Soulsborne genre is the balance of simplicity and complexity. Let me explain. When I'm talking about the simplicity, I'm talking about the simplicity of the mechanics that are at your disposal. Have you noticed how simple your attacks are in Soulsborne games? Usually you have one main attack. Sometimes you can have an additional attack, with for example Ashes of War in Elden Ring. Or for example, you can have two forms of attacks in Bloodborne, with the weapons that can switch modes. It is such a simple system that it is almost impossible for you to form some sort of a combo in Fromsoftware games. Yes, aside from attacks, you have blocking, rolling, and even parrying, but that's about it. So, if it's such a simple system, how it is not boring? Well, that's where the complexity comes in. The complexity is provided by the enemies that you encounter, where you have to adapt to the enemy's movesets and create different strategies using all the available mechanics at your disposal. You need to avoid damage, wait for the opportunity to attack, and don't be too greedy. And it's only when you learn the patterns of your enemies and bosses you are able to defeat them. So, the simplicity is balanced by the complexity and the other way around. Fun fact, it is actually the opposite of what Devil May Cry is doing. Devil May Cry is one of my favorite games. In Devil May Cry, the complexity is provided by the player and the combos that the player can do. And the majority of the enemies in the game are simple and doesn't pose any threat, except for some bosses. Because of that, Devil May Cry isn't about beating the game, but about how stylish you'll beat the game. Again, opposite to the Soulsborne games. Soulsborne games are about you beating the game, and it doesn't really matter how you beat the game. Now, before we move on, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, make sure to check out my other videos after this one, like the videos on Bethesda formula and Rockstar formula. If you won't, you're gay. I said what I said, now you don't have a choice. Now, if Sekiro wouldn't exist, I could have said that Fromsoftware formula has three aspects, not only two: simplicity, complexity, and variety. We have already talked about simplicity and complexity. Variety in Dark Souls, Elden Ring, and Bloodborne games is provided by the movesets of your weapons. Every weapon has its own moveset, so your attacks are still simple, simplicity, meaning you can't go crazy and do combos, but you can choose your playstyle, how aggressive you wanna play, your DPS, range, etc. Now, it is also interesting how Fromsoftware deals with the balance of their games, considering that their games are perceived as hard. I especially want to talk about resource management. Their resource management is dull and genius at the same time. Yes, there are some items that you can pick, and they're one-time use. But Estus flasks, the most important and valuable items in the game, are rechargeable at the Grace, Bonfire, whatever. That saves Fromsoftware a huge headache, and it is way easier to balance the game this way. Now think of Resident Evil games, where all the items, including healing items and ammo, have to be placed by the developers by hand, so the player can beat the game. Now imagine if Fromsoftware would have to do the same thing for Elden Ring. It would be a disaster. It would make the balance of the game way harder to tune. Thus, Fromsoftware, for example, is able to concentrate on creating different creatures. It is actually really hard to create enemies in games. You've probably noticed that in a lot of games the developers often reuse the same models and patterns when creating different foes. For example, Nier Automata. The whole game you mostly fight the same type of enemies that may use different weapons. Now, I'm going to give my opinion on these kinds of games in general. And I'm about to say some controversial things. Objectively, the best Fromsoftware game is Sekiro. Sekiro has the best balance of all Fromsoftware games. Now, I'm not saying that you have to like it. In fact, I haven't enjoyed playing Sekiro myself. It's like eating broccoli. It may be healthy, but you don't like it. You like fries. Now, fries in that analogy is Elden Ring. Probably the most successful Fromsoftware game. And I'm gonna be brutally honest. I have enjoyed playing Elden Ring, but it's not the best Fromsoftware game, at least in terms of balance. Let me quote myself from the videos about top 12 games you must play before you die. Quote, "You see, Elden Ring is an open world game, which means that Elden Ring is more disbalanced compared to Dark Souls. You see, leveling up your character in Dark Souls actually is not to make your fights easier. Its purpose is so you can create your own build, so you can create your own playstyle, one that suits you. Yes, eventually you become stronger when you're leveling up, but so are your enemies. This is balance. In Dark Souls 3, Fromsoftware can predict approximately when in the game you'll encounter certain enemies, so they can balance your enemies better compared to your level. When we're talking about an open world game like Elden Ring, the ability of the developers to predict your level when you will encounter a certain enemy shrinks. And so the balance suffers." End of the quote. Yes, I'm quoting myself. Note that I have said that before I have even played Elden Ring. Yes, I have played Elden Ring recently. Now, Elden Ring is designed so when you encounter a certain enemy that you can defeat, you must go and grind. Fromsoftware made it clear when they placed a tree sentinel outside of the cave where you start the game. Clearly, you aren't supposed to defeat that tree sentinel, so it is a sign to go and level up. It is the same with Morgoth. If you go to fight him straight away, you will have a hard time defeating him. So I went to level up. I completely forgot about Morgoth and just kept exploring the open world. And when I came back, Morgoth and Godric as well fell on the first try. Did I enjoy fighting them? No, because I was too strong at that point. And I think it's bad. In Dark Souls 3, your first boss is Iudex Gundyr, which means Judge Gundyr, and it was really a judge of your skills. If you can't beat it, then you shouldn't play the game. Elden Ring tells you a different thing. Just go and level up, and you will be able to defeat your foes. Now, I'm not saying that Elden Ring is an easy game. No, just too disbalanced. For me, the real challenge came in my last 10% of the game. So, because of all of that, in my opinion, Dark Souls 3 is the best Fromsoftware game. It is a relatively fresh game, it has balance and it has variety that allows you to choose your playstyle, unlike in Sekiro. Though, and I'm going to say more unpopular opinions, I consider Lies of P the best game of that genre. It absorbed all of the great mechanics and ideas that Fromsoftware came up with, and mixed it perfectly. It has simplicity, complexity and variety, and it is forgiving. Let me explain. First, which is great, Lies of P has vampirism, something similar that Bloodborne has, which means that you can get a little of your health back. And one more important thing that I really came to like is that if you have used all of your Estus flasks, if you are playing well, don't die and deal damage, you can regain one flask back. That's what I meant when I said that the game is forgiving. Now, it's bad and makes the game easier, right? Yes, it makes the game easier, but only if you are playing well. If you are ineffective, it won't help you. For example, why it is good? Have you noticed how when you are playing Fromsoftware games, when you are fighting bosses, you sometimes give up, because you have already used too much Estus and you realize that it is pointless to keep fighting because you won't win anyway. So you just let the boss end you so you can try again. Now that's where Lies of P always gives you the opportunity to win, even if you have made mistakes in the fight. But you get yourself together and the game gives you the means to win. Other than that, I really liked playing a game that I understand, that I don't need to watch YouTube videos that explains the plot and the lore. And overall vibe and theme of the game is beautiful. Not gonna lie, I got tired of that dark Fromsoftware vibe. Fromsoftware is like, "We carved the dark, son of the grim Roderick, the lord of the void in eternal darkness." It was fun in Dark Souls 3, but I needed that new theme that Lies of P have. So, if you had doubts about playing Lies of P, go for it. That's definitely worth it. Now, let's return to the discussion about Fromsoftware. We can definitely see that Fromsoftware is experimenting with the formula. We saw that in Bloodborne with the weapons that switch modes, and with the absence of shields with the parry as one of the core mechanics. We saw some experiments with Sekiro where they removed variety from the formula. Now we see those experiments manifesting into the open world game like Elden Ring. And it seems that Fromsoftware hit on some gold here. Elden Ring attracted all sorts of gamers to the genre, gamers that never played a Soulsborne game. Even though I liked Lies of P a lot, but Fromsoftware is still leading the genre. They are the idea generator and they are successful in it. Now, thank you for watching, thanks for your likes. Share this video with your grandma so that she would also know what Fromsoftware formula is. And check out my other videos. Now, eat your vegetables and don't be naughty. See you later.